road from Sheffield to Manchester curves over the hills and dales of Yorkshire to Stocksbridge, a small industrial town. A familiar enough sight is the heavy lorry as it carries raw materials for local industry. Scrap metal to make the special steels for which Stocksbridge is known the world over. Stocksbridge is a steel town, and almost every family is dependent on the local steelworks in some way or other. For over 100 years, they have made steel, special steel, for the ever-changing needs of industry. Men were making iron in this valley 1,500 years ago. And from their primitive workshops has grown this giant works, as modern as any in the world today. Here, tradition persists, and alongside the present is evidence of the past. In days gone by, brick lump made better homes than most, while Gentleman's Row was reserved for the foreman of those days. What memories, too, must linger on in Honeymoon Row. This is the Stocksbridge of today, and now here come the steelworkers. Nearly 7,000 men and women, and about half of them live in Stocksbridge. Many families have been in steel for generations, and local pride runs high. Some refer to those from nearby Barnsley as foreigners, or in even less polite terms. These are the men, and here is the metal. Scrap is the basis for most steels, and it's all carefully sorted. This is most important, for Stocksbridge specializes in tailor-made steels, the ever-increasing range of high-quality alloys, like those needed for modern aircraft and atomic power plants. Almost every day, a new boy starts learning how to make steel. Roy Westwood is typical of the valley, and like most of his friends, spent his school days at Stocksbridge Secondary Modern, working away in the pleasant but overcrowded classroom. Steel is in the background of all these children, and they find color in their local industry. The chances are that most of them will become steel workers like Roy, or marry them. Those who want to make steel their job in life will go to Belmont, the works training center. All the boys get a basic practical training that will serve them well whatever they do, while the staff select them for one or other of the two main groups of steel workers, craftsmen or production workers. Most parents want their sons to be craftsmen, for there is a host of jobs outside steel open to them if ever the need for a change should come. However, although much attention is paid to their selection and training, the backbone of a steelworks is the production man. The vast new melting shop is known locally as Bagnall's Cathedral. For Frank Bagnall, the manager, is a well-known character in the world of electric melters. Here are housed two of the largest arc furnaces in Europe, and a single furnace can melt over 80 tons in one go. Production workers run these giant furnaces, and Reg Siddons, the first-hand melter, controls as much as 30,000 pounds worth of metal at very high temperatures and under tremendous power. Reg is a Yorkshireman and born locally, with that tremendous pride found in most people who live and work in these parts. His parents were born here too, and he would hate to move away. He sets great store by his county, his daughter Maureen, and his very responsible job as well. When Reg's furnace is melting the charge, it uses as much power as a town the size of Doncaster. This is when he has time for a few words with Frank Bagnall. There isn't much to say, but Frank will tell you himself that he can always think up an excuse to see Reg when he's out of cigarettes. The raw materials have been carefully selected, but they must still be refined. And Reg decides that extra lime must be added to slag off impurities. Electronic machines analyze the complicated alloy with precision and great speed. But the familiar microscope still has its part to play in determining the structure of the metal. Tapping the furnace at exactly the right time is vital, and Reg, with his years of experience, knows the moment has come. Sure, the melt is a good one, but further laboratory tests will prove the accuracy of his judgment. In steelmaking, experience has no substitute, but some of the knowledge required can still be taught in the classroom. And until they're 18, the young boys in the work spend 1 day a week with pay getting further technical education at a school run by the local authority. Here is a new interest for many who never thought much of school, as exact temperatures are related to the job of making steel. The metal is now melted. The next stage, putting the melt into molds to form steel blocks or ingots. In the rolling mill, each ingot is heated until it is the right temperature for rolling into billets or long bars. The metal cools rapidly and good teamwork is needed to keep things moving at the right speed. Nearest to us is Arthur Eastwood. Just now, he's the team's number 1, the screwer. His right hand controls the pressure on the rolls. His feet on the pedals, the passing backwards and forwards of the hot metal. Beyond him is Tom Keogh, the manipulator driver. He turns the ingot over. There is an elaborate bonus system of payments for this work, so the earnings of all are affected by the speed of operation. From the big dial, Arthur sees that his part of the job is finished, so without loss of time, he runs the steel onto the next team down the line. Production bonuses are discussed locally by the men's union representatives. A new size or type of material often calling for extra payment.
The only thing that we want is equalization of pay weight without enough material. We don't want 1 ounce more or 1 ounce less, just equalization.
But you are really asking for more by asking that this 70% should be applied to sizes that we haven't rolled until we can prove that something different would be the correct thing to apply.
We have an agreement, Mr. Clifford, which gives us 70% on all stainless ingot between 2 ton and 6 ton, and we're going to stick to that.
But you haven't an agreement that suggests that the addition for 1 ton ingot should be lifted to 200%.
No, but we have the figure.
Men and management don't always agree, but most differences are ironed out so satisfactorily that there have been virtually no strikes this century. Teams, in the fullest sense of the word, the rolling crew change places every hour. Arthur can now rest as Tom takes over as screwer with Harry Rogers manipulator. Behind Tom stands Harry Day, the roller. With years of experience to his credit, he is now responsible for all rolling in this mill. Now the rolls open wide to take an 8-ton ingot. This is a new alloy, and tests are needed for research. How will it roll? Will it crack if worked too fast? These are some of the questions in their minds, for there is real interest in the job itself. Steel makers are fascinated by their work, and they talk shop continuously, in the mill and at home. And this can be very hard on a woman. But Mrs. Day is used to her steel worker by now, and whatever his faults, there's always a good meal for him when he gets home. The Days live in a comfortable semi-detached house on the Stubbins estate, where there is plenty of space for trees and gardens, which is fine, so long as you don't mind a walk. Besides a large co-op and the local shops, there's a market every Friday where enthusiastic salesmen try selling bargains to shrewd Yorkshire housewives. Some bananas, perhaps? Well, whatever Mrs. Day decides, Harry won't have as thin a time as our piece of steel now coming forward for more rolling. Harry has been making final adjustments, and rolling stops while he checks for size. Steel workers have their say on bonuses and conditions through their union, while their views on other matters can be aired in the Works Council just as well.
Any other business? I should like to ask a question about these 15 to 16-year-old lads who are coming into the industry. I feel there's a lack of supervision of these lads. Can anything be done about it?
I'll call on Mr. Morley to answer that question.
Well, Mr. Chairman, when boys are in any department, the question of discipline is a matter for the departmental management. All the boys are following definite courses of training, and if Mr. Silburn is in any doubt about the program that they're following, he can find out more about it within his own department.
That is a question I would like to ask. Men in the melting shops and hot rolling mills have suffered most during the recent recession. Could Mr. Thickett give any hope for improvement in the future?
Since the end of the war, the demand for steel has increased enormously. And there's little doubt that with the higher standard of living, there will...
Production workers and craftsmen side by side in discussion, and in the mills as well. These engineers are changing roles. And here, an electrician is joining power cables. Like other craftsmen, Stan Collins has spent much of his life outside steel, and his skill is such as would be in demand anywhere in the country. There's considerable automation in these mills, so electricians are important men. It can be reckoned that there is at least one electric motor for every man employed. Here, the skilled individual replaces the team, though a complicated job will call for a mate as well. In the engineering shop, the largest machine can be handled by one man. But craftsmen and production workers alike have many interests in common. And everyone buys the Works magazine. Over 6,000 copies are sold within 48 hours. In this issue, there are nearly 4 pages of weddings, and that says something for the family feeling. The many social services have done much to foster this family feeling, and physiotherapy is the newest development. Up-to-date techniques and the latest equipment are used to restore men to full health. Steelworks, a surprisingly large number of girls are employed, and but for this, there would be few jobs for them in the district. Moreover, they carry on a tradition founded way back in 1848, when young Samuel Fox set out to make the finest umbrella frames in the world. Telling one umbrella frame from another is easier than knowing if this is Jean or Joan, or Joan or Jean. Christine is doing an unusual job for this country, making small springs for instruments and watches. A new industry for Stocksbridge, started up to meet a wartime emergency. In the Hollerith department, facts and figures for every job are punched on cards. It's easy to see why few single men come to the valley without falling for a local girl. Complicated bonus claims are worked out in minutes, and a full check is kept on every job and on every piece of steel as it goes through the works. These mechanical brains can trace the steel from the scrap dump to the final processing in the cold-rolled strip department. This machine rolls a special tough stainless steel for motorcar trim, and diamond hard rolls give it the final mirror finish. From these machines, too, come 98% of the steel used in Britain for razor blades. Once again, teamwork is the key, and Pam Buxton is backed up by John Kay. John used to be a number one, and is now taking it easier to give a younger man a chance. But as with many steel workers, his spare time is no rest cure. As the day moves to a close, the rolls turn on, giving the steel a surface equal to a plated finish. This, too, is the finish for some of the shift workers. But in the local council chamber, work has just started.
The next item is letting of a three-bedroom house on the Stubborn estate.
He has a report on that.
The house referred to, Mr. Chairman, is a three-bedroom type house on the Stubborn Farm estate. It's a central heated house, and the weekly rent is 31 shillings.
Mr. Chairman, as Housing Chairman, I would like to put before the committee the case of a Mr. and Mrs. Black. They live in a two-bedroom type prefab, and they already have 3 children of school age. I should imagine the oldest will be in his teens.
I think I must report, Mr. Chairman, that in this particular case, the tenant owes rent.
Mr. Chairman, I quite agree with what Mrs. has to say. Most members round this table know that this man is a bad egg. But I feel sure that if we rehoused him, it would make him realise his responsibilities to his wife and family and this council, and I'm prepared to move that this house be handed to this family.
Mr. Chairman, I'm willing to second this resolution in order that we may safeguard the future of these children.
Any amendment? Approve of these. Thank you.
Such a problem is unusual. Take Harry Day. He doesn't seem to mind paying his daughter a shockingly high rent. But life in Stocksbridge isn't always as peaceful as this.
You killed that fellow! You please, I didn't know. I didn't understand.
You don't understand anything. You never did. You never even tried. You...
Hey, no!
Oh, I'm sorry.
That won't do. Can we try it again with Alf in this position here?
town is a prosperous community with its social centres among the best. And rightly so, for these are the people who produce the highly developed steels needed for modern industry. They work well and they play well. The day is nearly over, but there's just time for the late shift to have a quick one on the way home. The people of Stocksbridge depend on steel for their living, and we depend on them. These are the men who are producing the new steels needed to build the engineering and scientific achievements of our age.